The Outer Worlds is a warm hug from an old-school developer for every fan burned by modern games. It's both a masterful return to form and a breath of fresh air. In this quirky space opera, you play as a colonist aboard Hope, a ship lost in the furthest reaches of space, considered collateral damage by an otherwise uncaring corporation. You're found by Dr. Phineas Wells, an eccentric scientist wanted by a corporate entity known as the Board. He seeks to not only resurrect you, but the other colonists locked in cryosleep in an attempt to save the unsustainable human colonies that are spread across the stars. This backstory provides a loose framework for the rest of your adventures as you jump across various planets, asteroids, and space stations in search of the supplies needed to wake your fellow colonists. It's not so much the main story that shines here, but the hijinks you get up to while on this journey. Side quests abound in the Outer Worlds, each wonderfully written, varied, and interesting. The optional quests can be short affairs or even have multiple parts and various endings. One main theme in the Outer Worlds is choice, and meaningful choice at that. When tasked by an NPC to collect valuable weapons or information, will you sell it on the black market or keep it for yourself? Will you support the people or the corporations? Or will you just draw a blaster and double-cross everyone? You're never starved for choice. You'll also never be starved for company, as the Outer Worlds features 6 distinct companions, all with their own backstories, personalities, and combat roles. These characters also have their own loyalty quests, which vary wildly. Along the way, you learn more about them and gain their trust. I was surprised to see just how Obisidian managed to subvert expectations with each of these characters and deliver some heartwarming moments with the dysfunctional family that you'll call your crew. The quirky characters that you'll meet across the stars won't disappoint, as the dark humor that's been displayed since the game's announcement permeates just about everything from dialogue to UI elements, tutorials, and item descriptions. The Outer Worlds has a distinct identity, and it's one that's well-formed and strong throughout the game. Every time I jumped back into the game, I was instantly happy to be back. The in-game ads, the funny loading screens, the cheesy elevator music. Everything about the Outer Worlds coalesces to create a place that you want to be, a virtual home to return to every night. As a chief concern among many gamers, combat was something that I was incredibly curious about, and the Outer Worlds quickly silenced those worries. While gunplay isn't on the level of your favorite boots-on-the-ground shooter, it's also much better than that other game that people will compare this to. Tactical time dilation keeps the action moving while giving players room to strategize and get off some pretty impressive shots. Rather than serving as a crutch for a lackluster shooting experience, this feels more natural. I also enjoyed the variety of weapons that players can tote, which includes anything from a laser pistol, to a machine gun, to a flamethrower, to a plasma scythe, and even a gun that does, well, this. But perhaps guns aren't your thing, and you'd like to specialize in speechcraft, or even engineering, and you absolutely can. A benefit of having various crew members at your disposal, each with their own specialization, means that players don't have to concern themselves with being a jack of all trades, but can spec themselves out on an incredibly granular level. When you begin leveling early on, your skill points are placed into categories such as stealth or science, and then evenly distributed among the subcategories. But in the mid to end game, you can specialize in very specific skills. Would you like to be so intimidating that enemies flee at the sight of you? You can. Would you like to be such a skilled liar that you can convince NPCs of just about anything? Would you like to be so good at engineering that you can hack the in-game robots known as mechanicals? You can do that too. There's so much potential for specialized builds, with complementary weapon and armor mods at your disposal, and even skill trees for your companions that can complement your playstyle, as their perks are distributed to the rest of the party as well. But what's a deadly crew without places to explore? The places you'll visit in the Outer Worlds are vibrant, varied, and beautifully rendered, and while these spaces aren't completely open, they never felt too small either. Many gamers were worried about this title not being an open-world game, but I think it's a matter of quality over quantity. The Outer Worlds doesn't feature vast, empty rolling plains for the most part, although Monarch is a particularly large planet compared to the other planets. But instead, it has distinctly handcrafted spaces. Everything has a purpose for the most part, and there's always loot to stumble upon, side quests to encounter, and danger lurking around every corner. The interiors are detailed, and the exteriors are vibrant and unique. This is usually the part of the review where I address issues and bugs, but there are simply none to speak of. Aside from very minor texture popping on my launch PS4, I haven't dealt with game-breaking or even immersion-breaking bugs. No characters clipping through walls during my conversations, no wonky physics issues, or some of the other bugs that similar titles are infamously known for. If I did have to nitpick, I wish the game felt more personal. Your captain's quarters in the ship are gradually furnished with trinkets from your adventures, each with a lovely blurb to remind you of the quest's outcome. While I do enjoy this, I wish there was a bit more personalization in your ship, a way to make your own mark on the world, aside from the outcomes of various quests. But if I could go off on a tangent for a moment, I'd like to address something else. While I try to review games in a vacuum, appraising what they are versus what they are not, it's nigh impossible to ignore how refreshing it is to buy a complete, unbroken, and well-crafted game in 2019. Obsidian didn't ride a wave of nostalgia, they didn't saddle fans with a million different collector's editions. They made a single, complete experience for all their fans. They made promises and kept them. And that's something to be commended in the age of predatory monetization schemes, pre-order bonuses, and unhealthy business practices for fans and devs alike. In an anti-capitalist game, I could see nothing more fitting. The Outer Worlds is a deep, hilarious, and charming experience. If you've been looking for an RPG with actual depth, with multiple solutions to your problems, and the option to meticulously build your characters, you've found it in The Outer Worlds.